Hello everybody, Glade Trooper here. Time for another Lycanites combos video. And this one is Legionslayer. I specifically designed this one for Warfare. But it's with a bit of a different theme. This one is specifically meant to break enemy ranks and devastate armies. And, I mean, like, it may seem a little redundant at first when you note what a couple of them can do. But when you think of their complementary features, it all works out to something that's meant to literally just rip enemies asunder in like huge formations. Just smash them to where they get all disorientated and knocked around, and for that matter, take out their lovely formation. And for that, I've got one whopper of a fight in mind to demonstrate this. Also, I might solve a little mystery here, because I'm kind of wondering how a couple mods would interact, namely Lycanites mobs equipment, and, well, dynamic sword skills. I'm wondering if it will count as a sword enough to do, like, all the sword stuff. So, we'll see about that. That's just an experiment I'll run mid-combat. But let's go over how to construct this beautiful and very lively weapon, and what all you'll be needing. But, again, remember, this is designed to break armies, and it's one of the wackier looking designs, but sometimes you gotta go with function over theme in terms of, well, it looking a particular way, because I've had themed parts together before, but this is one where it's all about utility. So this is what you get when you go with a theme based on wrecking armies rather than anything resembling what it's going to look like. So just saying, warning, sometimes they can come out looking this wacky. But anyhow, what you'll be needing is the following parts. You'll be needing, as the base, a sylph wing. Now remember that they will show up in the ether if you have the mod, but they will also show up in special locations such as guarding strongholds and other structures. So they tend to show up kind of underground a good portion of the time, but namely whenever you're underground and close to something particularly special. This adds the smited condition, which will keep a target burning even if they previously extinguished themselves, because as soon as they get out of the water, the smited condition will continue them burning until it goes away. So unless they have the ability to cure themselves, they're going to be toasty for a little while. It also has a very special projectile that happens on impact. It puts out an ether wave ring, so it's kind of a 360-degree attack, goes all around you. And that has more than one reason why it's there. Additionally, this adds the head and pommel slots, so it is a very important base part just because it adds the pommel and gives you additional options. So that is a pretty big deal. Speaking of pommel, you'll be needing a Vespid Stinger. Now, these are usually found in jungles, so you'll be finding Vespids, and yes, they will want to sting you. That is the point. The thing is, at level 3, in addition to adding poison to the attack, this pommel also adds penetration, so that means after the initial hit, it will deal even more damage. And this is where it starts getting into army-breaking territory, is you just think of the resonance of these two. Something with a complete 360-degree ring around you, and something that amps up damage on anything it's already hit. Yeah, that's gonna be intense. And that's just these two parts. And remember that some of these mobs will appear during events if you have them turned on, like, for example, Cinders and Vespids have special events related to them. I don't know if Sylphs show up in any particular event, or Darklings, but I do know that these two you might wind up getting due to events if you have them turned on. The default state is off. It's kind of went to more hunt down the mobs, so happy hunting, everybody. But, yeah, so you can always turn that back on and have your events with the absolutely awesome Voice of Gooderness, so you can go with that. Now, as for your head part, you'll be needing, darn lips, you'll be needing a Darkling skull. These are found underground, no particular location. They're just like dark underground places. So if you're hunting down Darklings for their skulls, you'll just be probably casually caving whenever you find them. It adds a few bonus stats to the item overall, but the big thing is it lets you summon Darklings in relationship to the sweep. So basically, you take half the sweep, and that's basically your... And you kind of times that by 5, and that's your percentage chance of any particular summon whenever you have the completed thing. So basically we're also summoning, well, assistants. So you'll be getting Darklings, and they will latch onto enemies and confuse them like crazy as they're latched on, because they will be trying to take the Darkling off. Additionally, it gives you Life Leech, which means that you'll be able to drain health from your enemies. And this is important because, well, if you're trying to sustain yourself in combat against an entire army, you'll probably need to be able to heal. It has been nerfed since the old days, but it's still something to keep in mind as something to give you that little extra boost. Now, for the actual blade part, you'll be going for cinders, and they show up where there's lots of fire. So, if things are burning around, or you're just, or anywhere near a forest that happens to be around lava at the same time, you'll find plenty of cinders. And remember that any part that has any, well, any part has some element associated with it. As you fight to get the parts, you'll probably also be getting the charges that power up the part. You can also, and he's transitioning over time to this, craft the part into more charges to level another one up. So you can sacrifice a level 1 to power up another one farther. But again, that's still work in progress, so not all of them have all the charge conversions. So, quick statement on that one. As for what it adds otherwise, when it comes to Cinderblade, well, you've probably seen this one before. It adds fire to the target, so they will be roasting. Which some creatures will just outright panic whenever they're on fire and will try to extinguish themselves as fast as they can. And it also lets you fire an Ember Arc. So you can roast in a wide area and be breaking their ranks manually if you think swinging away isn't doing it for you. And there also has a chance of summoning cinders. And this is where level 3s come in handy, because they tend to give you more bonus summoning power. If the level 2 doesn't, the level 3 often does, if that line of parts does it all. Then you'll definitely be getting it on level 3. So always go for the level 3, even if it has to be over time. So if you're leveling them up, it's totally worth it. On its own, this is a pretty good part to be using, but taken together, well, we'll be showing this thing off in a little while. And remember, when assembling, you will be needing your forges, and to power them up, your infuser. The initial forge requires a crafting table and a wooden axe. The second one takes that, and you add an iron block to it. And the third, it takes the previous one, the one in the middle, which is the greater equipment forge, and you add a diamond block to it. And the equipment infuser requires the lesser equipment forge, which is your first level forge, and you surround it with lapis lazuli in the crafting table. Please remember this is actually 8 of them surrounding it completely, but it's not like a full block worth, so just think of that classic formation there, and you get the idea. Now, as with tradition, I will assemble the new one, so I'm not just showing off the one in my hand, and then I will rename it. So, see all these parts that are dancing around? Soon they will actually have a greater purpose. So let's assemble and rename. We're adding our base part, the Sylphwing. Our pommel, the Vespid Stinger, thank you. The Darkling Skull for our head part, and for our blade part, the Cinder Blade. And with that, we have another version of Legionslayer, which again is meant to slay legions, if that wasn't perfectly clear. Now, I have, admittedly, upgraded my health a bit, because this next encounter is going to be a little intense. Now, one more thing, this thing does harvest only as a sword. It was designed mostly for combat, so chopping through annoying cobwebs, which some enemies might throw on you from some mods, including Lycanites mobs, this would be handy for getting rid of that problem, but it's not going to be meant for getting massive resources. So, yeah, it's again mostly a combat thing. So it's not really meant to be like a tool you do a lot of stuff with. It's meant to be just a whack away all. So, yeah. And as for how I buffed myself a little bit for this, you're going to probably notice that pretty soon. Although, I might want to grab just a few little extra pieces of food since I'm here. So, I mean, there happens to be some wild berries right next to where I picked out the fight, so why not? And again, this is purely going to be a fight. It's not going to be a Let's Harvest. It's going to be a Let's Rumble. So, yeah, let's do this thing. And as for what I'm going to be fighting, oh, you're in for a treat. I am going all-out boss mode with the Greater Crimson Portal. And as for my equipment, well, there is mainly going to be this. And my obsidian armor and a boatload of extra health from taking down 10 heart containers and munching a bit to get it filled up. So once that starts, we're going to see just how far I can go against the Greater Crimson Portal. And pretty much the... Oh, extra barriage. Nice. And pretty much the Crimson Cult. So this is going to be pretty much a rampage. I mean, I've been using my Thamic Resurgence 2 mod pack to do my my combo videos for a while. Now I'm definitely going to be putting that in to be readily apparent. Okay, Legionslayer. I was originally alternatively thinking of something rather breaker. Oh, right into that guy. Okay, that works. Yes, I'm leeching life, and I'm hitting him 360. I am just rampaging these guys with barely anything. Of course, there is that whole thing that it tries to keep itself from actually being... Lock on and swing. Lock on. Can you let me lock on? Thank you. So, yeah, it is compatible with dynamic sword skills. I've proven this conclusively now. And yes, it is healing me pretty well in this combat. Especially since I may have life leached the Crimson Portal itself, which has a ton of health to absorb. Anything that gets around here is getting wasted, just saying. Because I have an army of Darklings to occupy them. I'm breaking their ranks anytime that they have more than one. And I'm smashing with a way that even if they sneak around me, they are getting wrecked. So, they have been hit by the power of the Holy Smite. Wow, that was pretty fast. I mean, I did that with just obsidian, armor, and just a few tiny things. And they just got brutally annihilated by me. And I mean brutally. I mean, you saw that. They are just in extreme devastation right now. I mean, they just got wrecked. And I also get some loot lying around, too. I mean, I didn't even nibble my stuff yet. So, yeah, I just obliterated the Crimson Cult. Not just... That was not just... I was going to let that do a little repair work on those, just because. But I just obliterated the Crimson Cult. Oh, and yet a spare iron sword. You go that way. I'm not worried about your enchantment. Oh. Primordial Pearls have an EMC now? This is news. Okay. That doesn't have a recipe. That must have been added. I appreciate that. That will be interesting news for my further Thaumcraft later on, that I can, in fact, get more of those, assuming I figure out how in Thaumcraft 6 to get one in the first place. I'm still wondering about that, because, yeah, the mobs are here, the boss fights give you it, but how do I get to the boss fights? I am wondering. I'll find that out later, eventually, on my own, but... For now, you can see how much, like, absolute destruction I can bring upon the Crimson Cult if I assemble this in survival. I mean, just, it is absolutely brutal. I mean, the amount of text on this thing is hilarious. Yeah, I just unleashed it on them. It's like I just hit them with a legendary sword. They're like, what the? It's like, he's got that thing? Ah! And I'm at full health already. I mean, I leached off so much of their health during that fight that I'm just perfectly fine. So, I'm good. And so I'll be logging off, but yeah, that was absolutely hilarious. So thanks, everybody. And I hope to hear from y'all later, and bye for now.